1984. Part 1. It was a bright cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Weston Smith, a chain
Chin.
His chin nuzzled into his breast in effect to escape the wild wind. It slipped quickly through the glass door of Victoria Mansion, though, though, though not quickly enough to prevent a spew of gritty dust from entangling with him. The hallway smelled of burnt cabbage and old red matters. At one end of it, a colored poster to let the indoor display had been tagged to the wall. It depicted
Depicted.
It depicted simply an enormous face, more than a metre wide, the face of a man of about 45, with a heavy black mustache and a rugged, handsome figure. Weston made for the stairs. It was no use trying the lift. Even at the best of times, it was seldom working. And at present, the electronic current was cut off during daylight hours. It was part of the economic driving in preparation for for Hate Week. HATE.
Hate Week.
Hate Week. The flat was 7 frightened up, and Winston, who was 39 and had a various clear various
Varicose ulcer.
varicose ulcer, varicose, and had a varicose ulcer about his right ankle. Went slowly, resting several times on the bed. On each landing, opposite the lifting shaft, the poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures which are so contrived, that the eyes fooled you about when you move. Big Brother is watching you. The captain beneath it ran. It ran. Inside the flat, Fruity was reading out a list of figures which had something to do with the production of pig iron. The voice came from an oblong metal plater like a diode mirror, which formed part of the surface of the right-hand wall. Winston turned a switch, and the voice sank somewhat, though the words were still distinguishable. The instrument, the telescreen, it was called, could be dimmed, but there was no way of shutting it off completely. He moved over to the window, a smallish, frail fridge, the language of his body merely emphasized by the blue overall which wore the uniform of the party. His hair was very fair, his face naturally signatured, his skin roughly
Roughened.
his skin roughened by coals.
Coarse.
By coals, his skin roughened by score coal, by coarse,
Coarse.
by cold soft and blonde rather blade and the cold of the winter that had just ended. Outside, even though the shut window pane, the world looked cold. Down in the street, little aged Little Eddie.
Eddies.
Little eddies or wind were string dust and tore paper into spiral.
Spirals.
Spirals, and tore paper into spirals. And though the sun was shining and the sky hash blue, there seemed to be no color in anything. There seemed to be no color in anything except the posters that were blasted everywhere. The black moustache's face gazed down from every commanding corner. There was one on the house front immediately opposite. Big Brother is watching you, the captain said, while the dark eyes looked deep into Weston's own. Down at street level, another poster, torn at one corner, flapped fitfully in the wind, alternately carving and uncurving the single word exhaust. In the far distance, a heliotic skimmed down between the roofs, hovering for an instant like a blue bottom, and dared away again with the carving flight. It was the policy pantry.
It was the police patrol.
It was the police patrol snooping into people's window. The patrol did not matter, however, only the thought police mattered. Behind Winston's back, the voice from the telescreen was still murmuring away about the pick-on and the overfulfillment of the nice 3-year plan. The telescreen received and transmitted stimulatory and how to say this word?
Simultaneously
and transmitted simultaneously. The telescreen received and transmitted
simultaneously.
Any sound that Winston made above the level of a very low whisper would be picked up by it. Moreover, so long as he remained within the field of vision which the mental pleasure commanded, he could be seen as view as had. There was of course no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment, how often, or on what system. The sort police plugged in on any individual wire was guesswork. It was even conceivable that they watched everybody all the time, but at any rate, they could plug in your wire whenever they wanted to. You had to live, from habit that became instinct, in the assumption that every sound you made was overhead and accepted in darkness. Every moment scrutiny. Every movement.
Scrutinized.
Every moment scrutinized. Winston kept his back turned to the telescreen. It was a safer thought, and he will know. Even a bag can be reviewed. A kilometer away, the Minister of Truth, his place of work, towards vast and wide above the grim landscape. This, he thought, with a sort of visual disaster. He thought with the sort of
Vague.
vague, vague disaster. This was London, chief city of airstrip one. It served the third most populous of the province of Oceania. He tried to square out some childhood memory that should tell him whether London had always been quite like this. Were there always these visitors of rotting 19th century house, their sides shot up with bulk,
Bogs.
with bunks of timber, their windows patched with cardboard and their roofs with corrugated iron. Their crazy garden were scanning in all directions, and the bombed sides where the blast dust smeared in the air, and the window and the willow herb staggered over the heaps of rubber, and the place where the bombs had cleared a large patch, and there had sprung up solid colonies of wooden narrowing like a children's house. But it was no use. He could not remember. 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 Nothing remained of his childhood except a series of bright light, a series of bright lit, a series of bright lit table, see, tables occurring against the no background and mostly unintelligible. The Minister of Truth, Minister in newspeaker was slightly different from any other object in sight. It was an enormous
Pyramidal.
pyramidal. It was an enormous pyramidal structure of glittering white concrete, soaring up terrace after terrace, 300 meters into the air. From where Winston stood, it was just possible to read, picked out on its white face in elegant lettering, the three slogans of the party: war is peace, freedom is the slaves, elegance is the strength. Okay, let's close today's recording. Thanks to me.